Toru Aquara is a jobless troublemaker with no particular skills. One day he goes to search for food in the woods when he meets a mysterious girl named Chaika Trabant. She mistakes him for a bandit at first as strangely carries a coffin on her back. Chaika is also a young wizard who speaks very little. Suddenly the two are interrupted by a dangerous unicorn, and they both flee together. They decide to come up with a plan for Toru to distract the monster so that Chaika can defeat it with a spell from her ex-magic Gundo sniper rifle. After they manage to defeat the monster, Chaika thanks Toru by giving him a meal. But soon after, Toru's sister Akari arrives and calls him lazy. Meanwhile, Alberic Gillette and his soldiers from the Gillette Corps meet Roberto Abarth, a hero who fought against the Gaz Empire years ago, seeking an item from the war. Abarth refuses their request. Later, Chaika hires Toru and Akari to steal something from Abarth's mansion. That night, the siblings, along with Chaika, sneak into the mansion but are confronted by Abarth, who mistakes them for thieves working for Alberic. As Abarth is about to use his magic against them, he suddenly recognizes Chaika and is taken aback. Abarth is surprised to see Chaika alive, believing she was dead. After escaping from him, Chaika explains that Abarth's mansion is enchanted with Gundo magic, allowing him to control everything inside. The only way to stop it is by destroying its magic source. Toru distracts Abarth while Chaika and Akari search for the source. Eventually, they locate the item Chaika seeks, a severed left hand in a jar. As they leave the mansion, the trio is ambushed by the Gillette Corps, demanding they surrender Chaika and the magical hand. Akari takes Chaika to safety while Toru, holding the jar, leads the Corps on a chase through the city before facing off against one of their members, Nikolai Autotor. Alberic, Vivi Holopainen, and the Corps magical vehicle soon corner Toru. Alberic reveals that Chaika is actually Chaika Gaz, the daughter of Emperor Arthur Gaz of the Gaz Empire, whose death ended the war. They fear that if Chaika's existence becomes known, loyalists might try to resurrect the Gaz Empire with her as their leader, sparking another war. In addition, Emperor Gaz's remains are potent sources of magic. Toru remains steadfast, and Chaika uses her magic to help him escape. Once safe, she explains her mission to gather her father's remains for a proper burial. Toru and Akari decide to assist Chaika, earning her gratitude. The trio is on the hunt for another one of the 8 heroes who possesses a part of Arthur's remains in Ipsum town. Unfortunately, Chaika's coffin is attracting unwanted attention, so Toru covers it with cloth. Meanwhile, the Gillette Corps gets a message from their bosses at the Kleeman Agency saying they can't send reinforcements. During lunch, Chaika and the others find out that Ipsum's ruler, Dominica Skoda, also one of the 8 heroes, lives nearby in a dangerous forest. The Gillette Corps reaches town and starts tracking Toru, Akari, and Chaika. Dai, a young man who communicates via hologram and is Chaika's informant, tells them where Dominica lies and where to find an abandoned magical vehicle for transportation. After fixing up the vehicle, Chaika admits she was out of the country when her father died and doesn't remember the war. The female knight introduces herself as Dominica Skoda and invites the trio to stay in her mansion. Toru suggests they peacefully ask Dominica for Arthur's remains, and if that fails, they'll use force. But Chaika hesitates because Dominica saved them and has been kind. The next day, Toru requests Arthur's remains from Dominica. Surprisingly, she agrees but challenges them to a fight. As they get ready, they notice something odd about Dominica since she didn't recognize Chaika, one of the 8 heroes. During the battle, Toru and Akari fight Dominica in their powerful forms, but struggle to beat her. Toru realizes that they're not fighting Dominica, but her dragoon in disguise and forces it to reveal its true form. Together, Toru, Akari, and Chaika defeat the dragoon. It explains that Dominica died after the war, but it couldn't forget its master. Keeping its word, the dragoon gives them Arthur's eyes and decides to join their journey in the form of a girl named Frederica. Heading to Peremerald town, Toru, Akari, and Chaika are attacked by a red armored sword fighter and her 2 friends. Toru captures the fighter and is surprised to see she looks like Chaika, but with shorter hair. Chaika Trabant is taken by Red Chaika's friends, and both groups run when the Gillette Corps shows up. After offering her food, Red Chaika, whose name is Chaika Bowden, admits she's Emperor Arthur's daughter. Unlike their Chaika, Red Chaika wants to use her father's remains for revenge against the 8 heroes and those who abandoned him during the war. Meanwhile, Red Chaika's friends tell Chaika there are other girls claiming to be Emperor Arthur's daughters. Elsewhere, Wizard Matthias Calloway and Catboy Leonardo Stola try to find Toru and Akari, but stumble upon Red Chaika's friends. Eventually, they agree to exchange prisoners, and the 2 Chaikas meet face to face. Tecatrices controlled by Matthias attack during the prisoner exchange, causing David and Selma Kenworth to flee with Chaika while Toru, Akari, and Red Chaika fight them off. They return to their vehicle where Frederica is waiting. Toru and Akari plan their next move while waiting for Akari to return from arranging the next exchange. Meanwhile, the Gillette Corps, ordered by the Council of 6 Nations, deal with farm riots, much to Gillette's frustration. As they wait, Red Chaika asks Toru why he helps White Chaika and offers him a spot in her group. They meet in Peremerald for the hostage exchange, where Toru refuses Red Chaika's offer. Leaving town, Chaika wonders if she's truly Chaika Gaz, but Toru reassures her that she's real. Red Chaika and David propose joining forces to find Arthur's remains faster. However, when Red Chaika suggests there can only be one Chaika Gaz, meaning she wants to eliminate White Chaika, Toru and Akari refuse, leading to a fight and their escape. Toru worries about dealing with both the Gillette Corps and the other Chaikas as they move forward. Dai tells Toru and his group that the hero, Simon Scania, was last seen at the Valley of No Return 4 years ago. Though before they can act on this information, the Gillette Corps ambushes them. They escape using Frederica's dragoon form. Upon reaching the valley, they see it's filled with magical fog. As Chaika starts descending the valley wall, the others follow. Suddenly, the rock collapses, and they fall into the fog. Akari, Chaika, and Frederica, protected by a barrier, watch as Toru struggles with an illusion. Frederica only managed to shield Akari, and Chaika, leaving Toru vulnerable to the magic. They wait, and Toru eventually finds his way into the barrier, breaking free from the illusion. Reunited, they continue along the valley and find the machine causing the fog. After destroying it, they encounter Simon, who is now mad. Simon confesses that he created the fog machine to make others feel the betrayal he experienced when his wife and best friend turned against him. They retrieve Arthur's leg from the machine and leave Simon in peace. Conrad Steinmetz, the head of the Kleeman agency, asks Alberic to take a break from searching for Chaika Trabant. Alberic decides to research Emperor Arthur, but the lack of solid evidence raises doubts about his mission. Meanwhile, Toru and his group meet the Neo-Gaz Empire, led by a blonde girl they call Princess Chaika. While Chaika becomes friends with the princess, Toru, Akari, and Frederica grows suspicious of the group. That night, the princess attempts to rob a nearby mansion, but falls into an ambush. Toru's suspicions are confirmed when they are attacked by Neo-Gaz's men. They easily defeat the group, who confess their former Gaz Empire citizens turned thieves after being abandoned by the Six Nations. Toru wants to leave, but Chaika pleads to save the fake Princess Chaika, whose real name is Julia. Toru and his friends rescue Julia, earning gratitude from her and her companions. Toru is disappointed that these former Gaz citizens know little about their emperor. Meanwhile, the Council of Six Nations decides to tackle a rebellion led by Duke Gillard Gavarni, who controls a floating fortress. Low on magic fuel for their vehicle, Toru's group attempts to restock but discovers local shops are out due to celebrations for the anniversary of the war's end against the Gaz Empire. Chaika suggests using her memories as a substitute, but Toru refuses upon learning she loses them afterward. Meanwhile, the Gillette Corps marks the anniversary before being called for an emergency mission. While searching for fuel, Toru shares his childhood with Chaika. He and Akari grew up in Akora village, training as saboteurs. Despite wanting to join the Gaz Empire war, his mentor Shin warns him against recklessness. Toru recalls Jasmine, a woman from a traveling merchant convoy who became like family. When bandits attacked the convoy, Toru found a dying Jasmine, whose death deeply affected him. Despite villagers avenging the attack, Jasmine's loss profoundly shaped Toru. He advises Chaika to cherish her memories. Finally finding fuel, they discover Duke Gavarni of Iveco obtain one of Arthur's remains and decide to investigate. Upon arriving at Iveco, Toru notices something odd. There are no young girls in town. Moreover, there's a shortage of magic fuel despite the region's famed fuel mines. They discover Duke Gavarni hoarding the fuel for his floating fortress, Sora, while his soldiers abduct girls, never to be seen again. Toru's group infiltrates Sora, with Akari disguised as a local girl. She unwittingly aids Toru, Chaika, and Frederica's entry, unaware that Vivi and Zuida also snuck in. Meanwhile, the council plans to confront Duke Gavarni with their own fortress, Stratus. Conrad warns Alberic to rescue Vivi and Zuida before the council attacks Sora. Toru's group seeks Sora's magic engine, but falls into a trap set by the Duke's soldiers. Toru and Chaika flee, but Frederica is injured, and Akari is captured. Akari faces the wizard, Grad Lancia, and Ricardo, the Duke's son, who confesses to killing his family. Grad controls Akari's mind, forcing her to fight her friends. Toru and Chaika meet Layla, who pretends to seek their help but leads them into a trap, capturing Chaika while Toru confronts a controlled Akari. Vivi and Zuida save Toru, and they agree to team up to find the others and flee Sora. Meanwhile, Layla brings Chaika to a room where she reveals she knows Chaika's identity. As Toru, Vivi, and Zuida explore the fortress, they uncover the grim truth about the captured girls. Ricardo tortured them, and Grad uses their painful memories as fuel for Sora's magic. Layla discloses that she's also a Chaika and reveals a shocking truth to Chaika Trabant. None of the Chaikas are the real Chaika Gaz. They were created with false memories of being Arthur's daughter, each with different personalities, skills, and a drive to collect Arthur's remains. Chaika refuses to believe Layla, who explains she chose her own path after learning the truth and helped Ricardo restart a war for revenge. Frederica arrives to rescue Chaika, but is killed by one of Grad's creations. Meanwhile, Alberic tries to persuade the council forces captain to delay his attack to allow their escape. When he refuses, Alberic threatens him. Vivi and Zuida confront a mind-controlled Akari, and the Duke's men while Toru rushes to save Chaika. The Stratus commander ignores Alberic's pleas and orders it to attack the Sora. During the battle, Suida breaks Akari free from Grad's control. The fight between the Sky Fortresses damages the Stratus severely and causes the Sora's cannon to misfire, hitting Alberic and Alliance forces by mistake. All that's left of Alberic is his sword, found by Leonardo. Despite learning her true past, Chaika decides to keep seeking Arthur's remains. Layla suggests crashing Sora into Cadwell, but Stratus intervenes, crashing both into the lake below. Akari heads to the bridge, defeats Grad, and frees his minions. Chaika encounters Layla and Ricardo, nearly meeting the same fate as the kidnapped girls until Toru saves her. They retrieve Arthur's leg, but Layla shoots Toru. Chaika shoots Layla, saving Toru. They escape with Frederica's help before Sora sinks. Layla, gravely wounded, joins Ricardo to die together. Vivi and Suida learn of Alberic's death and mourn him. Meanwhile, Vivi's hair and eyes change color in grief. Chaika reveals her origins to Toru, Akari, and Frederica, vowing to continue their quest. They agree to help and drive off to their next destination. After Toru proves helpful in saving her from an attacking unicorn, he and his sister Akari are hired by the mysterious girl to help protect her. It turns out that Chaika is the daughter of the former emperor of the Gaz Empire, though when the Emperor Arthur Gaz passed, his remains were scattered throughout the lands. Now Chaika is on a quest to fulfill her father's last wishes and find his remains. But on the way, Toru and the gang keep running into the 8 heroes who are trying to stop their quest. During the final days of the conflict that ended his empire, Emperor Arthur Gaz decrees one of his officials to oversee a clandestine endeavor dubbed Chaika. Following the Sora incident by a month, Toru, Akari, and Chaika engage in a skirmish with Lady Claudia Dodge, one of the 8 heroes, and her retinue. Despite Chaika's valiant effort, Claudia emerges victorious. Nevertheless, Claudia graciously permits Chaika and her companions to lodge at her estate. Post-war revelations unveil Claudia's employment of discharged soldiers at her vineyard, notwithstanding her heroic status. She extends an unprecedented offer to Chaika. If they prevail in a duel the following day, she will relinquish Arthur's essence. Encouraged by Claudia's counsel, Chaika endeavors to expedite her spellcasting by abbreviating her incantations. Meanwhile, with the council intensifying their concern over the Chaika threat, Conrad mandates the Gillette Corps to persist in their mission, elevating Nikolai to captain following Alberic's demise. Elsewhere, Vivi faces a confrontation from Guy, who contends that she is akin to Chaika, albeit incompletely transformed. Despite her mixed heritage, Guy believes Vivi can play a pivotal role in retrieving Arthur's remnants. The ensuing day, despite her struggle to master brief incantations, Chaika remains steadfast in her determination to defeat Claudia fairly. Alongside Toru and Akari, they engage Claudia in their fateful duel. As Chaika, Toru, and Akari strategize on overcoming Claudia. Elsewhere, Crimson Chaika and her cohort vanquish yet another hero, Glenn Donkervort, securing Arthur's right arm and setting course for an island per their informant Guy's guidance. Eventually, Chaika succeeds in streamlining her incantations, triumphing over Claudia with Frederica's feline form serving as a timely distraction. Claudia extends her felicitations to the group, marking the occasion with a tea gathering. Meanwhile, Conrad's aide, Karen Bombardier, furnishes Vivi with Alberic's dossier on Emperor Arthur's affairs before rejoining the Corps, wielding Alberic's blade. Back at Claudia's estate, she discloses to Toru's party her disinterest in Arthur's remnants, having entrusted hers to Chaika, unveiling a clandestine truth. As the war neared its conclusion, the 8 heroes uncovered that one of Arthur's subordinates absconded with his concealed wealth, and the bulk of his arcane research to a covert isle. Despite the council's endeavors, they failed to locate the island or Arthur's esoteric studies. Providing Toru's troop with the heroes' whereabouts, Claudia bids them adieu. Shortly thereafter, Toru's faction learns that Crimson Chaika has already seized one of Arthur's relics from Glenn, while Chaika harbors aspirations of uncovering the clandestine island to unravel her lineage. Upon reaching a coastal settlement governed by Clay Morgan, one of the 8 heroes, Toru and his companions adopt the guise of a jesting ensemble to infiltrate Clay's abode. Upon discovering their true intentions and laying eyes on Chaika, Clay flees in terror, prompting Toru and Akari to pursue him. Meanwhile, Chaika endeavors to unearth clues regarding the whereabouts of the covert island, finding a lead amidst the treacherous waters of the evil sea. Toru and Akari locate and vanquish Clay, learning of his deep-seated dread of Emperor Arthur, born from past encounters with both Arthur and Chaika. Clay, haunted by Chaika's decapitation at the hands of King Stefan Harjan, relinquishes Arthur's ears to spare himself further torment. Upon securing Arthur's ears, Guy emerges, directing Toru and Akari to the enigmatic island. However, their trust in Guy wanes, given his prior knowledge of the existence of other Chaikas. Elsewhere, Shin apprises his master, Stefan, of the impending arrival of all of Arthur's remnants, promising Stefan's daughters, Irina and Elena, the opportunity to witness it. Meanwhile, tensions escalate between Toru and Chaika, the latter adamant about pursuing the secret island, prompting her dismissal by Toru. Akari intervenes, persuading Toru to reconcile with Chaika, but their efforts prove futile as Chaika sets off in search of the island alongside Frederica. In their pursuit, Toru and Akari board Clay's vessel, only to find themselves joined by Crimson Chaika and her retinue. However, their journey is abruptly halted by the assault of a kraken, plunging the ship into the depths. Undeterred, Chaika and Frederica press on, only to be accosted by dragoons upon reaching the secret island. Chaika, Crimson Chaika, and their companions successfully reach the island's shores, only to fall into the clutches of demihumans commanded by Kirill, acting under the orders of his master, Victor Ishmash. As Akari reunites with Frederica, a captive Chaika forms a bond with Ursula, one of the demihumans, until Toru stages a daring rescue, infiltrating the island's compound. Together, Toru and Chaika stumble upon an underground reservoir teeming with the corpses of fallen Phala and a waning, sentient kraken. The kraken divulges the origin of magic, tracing its lineage back to the Phala before humans, detailing Arthur Gaz's revolutionary advancements and Victor's nefarious attempts to mass-produce clones of demihumans and Phala. Furthermore, the kraken warns Chaika of the dire consequences her quest for Arthur's remnants may precipitate in the future. Before long, Kirill apprehends both Chaika and Toru. Meanwhile, the Gillette Corps unearths historical records indicating the Gaz Empire's development of floating fortresses during the war. Subsequently, Toru, the White Chaika, and the Crimson Chaika find themselves in Victor's laboratory, confronted by a cryptic blue-haired girl encased in a capsule. Victor shatters the illusion surrounding the Princess Chaika, revealing a grim reality: the Chaikas are not royalty, but rather young war orphans manipulated and indoctrinated by Arthur to serve his macabre agenda of gathering his remains. While Crimson Chaika rejects this revelation, the White Chaika, recalling Layla's earlier words, succumbs to despair upon finally grasping the truth. As Victor schemes to dissect the girls for his experiments, a grim fate hangs over them all. As the Chaikas are escorted away, Victor decrees Kirill and Ursula's demise, deeming them expendable now that he can produce demihuman clones en masse. Toru and both Chaikas elude their captors, resolving to collaborate in their bid to flee the island and liberate the blue-haired girl, Nivalata. When the White Chaika broaches the subject of their true origins with the Crimson Chaika, the latter adamantly rejects the notion, asserting her prerogative to determine the veracity of such claims. Elsewhere, Akari and Frederica effect the rescue of David, Selma, Kirill, and Ursula, forging an alliance to thwart Victor and secure their escape from the island. Later, Toru liberates the Chaikas and Neva from Victor's clone legions, and they regroup with their comrades outside. As Victor converges on a mystical tower to personally oversee the mind control of his clone army, Toru and his allies wage a fierce assault to reach the tower, enabling the White Chaika to attempt its destruction. However, her gundo proves insufficient to breach the tower's formidable barrier. Neva reveals her true nature as a human gundo, transforming into a colossal cannon, which Chaika utilizes to obliterate the tower, dispatching Victor in the process. With the tower dismantled and their puppet master eliminated, the clones face imminent demise, prompting Toru, Kirill, the Crimson Chaika, and their cohorts to depart the island separately, and without conflict. Meanwhile, the Council of Six Nations harbors suspicions regarding Stefan Hartgen's hosting of a combat tournament offering Arthur Gaz's remnants as the prize, prompting them to dispatch the Gillette Corps for investigation. As Toru and his comrades journey to the Principality of Hartgen to secure the final remnants of Arthur, the Gillette Corps arrives at the secret island, where Kirill and Ursula enlighten them about the events preceding their arrival. In Hartgen, the Crimson Chaika and her entourage partake in the tournament, emerging victorious in the preliminary bouts. Simultaneously, Toru and his allies also enroll in the competition as a contingency plan should their initial efforts to seize Arthur's remains falter. Zeta and Mathaus convene with King Stefan, endeavoring to dissuade him from proceeding with the tournament. However, their attempts are thwarted when they discover that the king's daughters, Elena and Irina, are also Chaikas, and their plea to cancel the event falls on deaf ears. Meanwhile, Vivi and Nikolai, taken aback by the tournament's allowance of lethal combat, reluctantly join the fray. Guy pays a visit to Alberic, who, to Guy's dismay, has lost his memories. Guy elucidates that he rescued Alberic due to the festering hatred within him. As the contestants retire for the evening, Toru and Akari clandestinely infiltrate the king's castle in pursuit of the remains, while Chaika observes Neva departing voluntarily with Guy. Toru and Akari endeavor to penetrate the castle to pilfer the remains, but their efforts are thwarted by the sudden appearance of their mentor, Shin, compelling them to hastily retreat. Meanwhile, Guy escorts Neva to Stefan Hartgen, who eagerly anticipates instigating a fresh conflict, convinced that true worth lies solely in prowess on the battlefield. As the tournament commences the following day, Toru and Chaika encounter Vivi and Nikolai amidst the fray. Rather than engaging in combat, they opt to exchange information, discovering the existence of the twin Chaikas ever at Hartgen's side. Unbeknownst to them, these twins answer to a third Chaika with her own clandestine agenda. While the council deliberates launching an assault on Hartgen, Conrad receives intelligence regarding the situation there. Unaware of Stefan's awareness of their presence, pairs consisting of Chaika and Toru, Bogdan and David, Akari and Frederica, and Vivi and Nikolai progress to the tournament's next phase. Little do they realize that Stefan is orchestrating their convergence, plotting for them to face off against each other. Chaika, Toru, Vivi, and Nikolai press forward in the tournament, only to be apprehended by Harjin guards under the guise of cheating, coercing them into a subterranean passage. Meanwhile, Akari and Frederica clandestinely infiltrate the castle with intentions of purloining Stefan's remains, only to encounter a cadre of Chaika warriors led by Shin, resulting in their capture. Elsewhere, Zita, Leonardo, and Matthias come to the aid of one of King Stefan's advisors, who reveals the monarch's descent into despondency following the war's cessation, until Black Chaika emerged, promising to reignite the flames of conflict. Chaika, Toru, Vivi, and Nikolai find themselves in an arena overseen by Elena, Irina, and Black Chaika, who dictate their adversaries. Vivi and Nikolai are compelled to face Alberic, who fails to recognize his comrades. To prevent Nikolai's demise, Vivi is compelled to sever Alberic's right hand, catalyzing his recollection. Next, Chaika and Toru engage in combat against Red Chaika and David, culminating in David's grievous injury and Red Chaika's concession. Despite their victory, Black Chaika demands the remaining remnants of Arthur from Toru and Chaika. Following a brutal assault by Shin and Chaika's capture, Toru is tasked with securing the remaining remains to secure Chaika's release. As Toru, Akari, and Frederica are ousted from the castle, Red Chaika decides to relinquish her remains to Chaika's group, only to discover from Selma that Harjin's forces have assaulted and pilfered them. Zita and Leonardo reunite with Vivi and Nikolai, learning of Alberic's survival. With Frederica debilitated by Shin's poison, Toru and Akari are compelled to surrender the remaining remains to secure Chaika's well-being. After briefing his superiors on the unfolding events, the Gillette squad is tasked with apprehending King Stefan before any of the 6 nations intervene, thereby averting a resurgence of war. Toru and Akari confront Stefan in his throne room, where a gathering including Elena, Irina, Black Chaika, Neva, Guy, Shin, and Chaika awaits them, with Alberic stealthily infiltrating. With all the remnants assembled, Black Chaika assimilates them and commences a birthing process with Guy's assistance, revealing himself as a magical mechanism designed to ensure the gathering of the remains. Black Chaika gives birth to a boy bearing resemblance to Guy but with Phala attributes, who unveils himself as none other than Arthur Gaz. Arthur expresses gratitude to Black Chaika for utilizing Phala components in her, facilitating his resurrection, and dispatches Stefan with a spell devoid of incantation, eliciting shock from the onlookers. As Arthur assumes the throne and ages, he divulges to Chaika the truth regarding her and her sisters, revealing them as not his genuine offspring but rather based on his mistress, who perished at Stefan's hands during the war, serving as the template for all Chaika's appearances. Arthur unveils his grand scheme to amass vast amounts of magical energy utilizing hidden flying fortresses in space, harvesting emotions from war-torn populations. He orchestrated his own demise and the scattering of his remains, compelling the Chaikas to vie for them, thereby spreading terror and dread across the continent. To showcase his might, Arthur and Neva effortlessly obliterate a flying fortress dispatched to assail Harjin. After decimating numerous flying fortresses of the 6 nations, Arthur ventures to one of his celestial strongholds alongside Shin to initiate his schemes. Toru resolves to forge a pact with Frederica, embracing the mantle of a Dragoon Cavalier to confront Arthur, while Akari, Vivi, Leonardo, Red Chaika, and their comrades engage in a showdown against Black Chaika and her henchmen. With Chaika's aid and her Gundo sniper rifle, Toru breaches the space fortress, engaging in a fierce duel against Shin before emerging victorious. Red Chaika confronts Black Chaika, ultimately delivering the decisive blow that severs the latter's control over Elena, Irina, and the Chaika warriors. Confronting Arthur at last, the Emperor implores Toru to join his cause, convinced that conflict is humanity's innate desire. Toru rebuffs the offer, prompting swift retaliation that leaves him and Frederica incapacitated. Before Arthur can deliver the fatal blow, Chaika erects a protective barrier, shielding Toru and Frederica from harm. Arthur attempts to eliminate Chaika using Neva, but Neva refuses and aligns herself with Chaika. With no magic bullets remaining, Chaika taps into her memories, fueling Neva's transformation into a cannon Gundo, culminating in Arthur's demise and the thwarting of his machinations, though Chaika succumbs to unconsciousness in the process. In the aftermath, Alberic, now at the helm of the Kleeman Agency, reports to the Council of 6 Nations, disclosing the failure of Arthur's plans and the detainment of Neva, while asserting the demise of all the Chaikas. Elsewhere, Toru, Akari, Chaika, Frederica, and Red Chaika forge a new life together, with Toru aiding Chaika in her recovery. And this is all for this video. Make sure to subscribe if you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one.